I think his MVP was Bobby Heenan. When I think about it, because
trust me,
if it hadn't been for Bobby,
well, I think Bobby was the key. When you said that Terry started going down, I'd left maybe a year before, maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'd always told Bobby, I said, you should go to Minneapolis because you're a great you're a great manager. I'd seen a few managers by then. At the time, he was the greatest I'd ever seen. And I may have put that bug in his ear, but anyway, and when Bobby did decide to go to Vern, I don't know what, you gave that story, which was probably more reliable.
Well, Bobby actually, he said, well, I never really considered going anywhere because he didn't think that, well, why would they want me? So I'm from Indianapolis, and I can understand why I'm working here, but he didn't have the clear picture of exactly how good he had gotten or how over he was, that he thought, well, why would Vern want me? And then,
the boy lacked confidence.
Yeah.
And that's hard to believe of Bobby Heenan, isn't it? I got to tell you something about Bobby. Bobby grew up in Chicago, and then an aunt died in Indianapolis. And his mom was a manager of an apartment building in Chicago, and they didn't have a house. But she inherited the aunt's house, so she and her mother, Grandma, moved with Bobby, her son, and the three of them moved to Indianapolis, and that's where he basically grew up, and all of his friends were from the high school that he dropped out of, or if he went to high school, I'm not sure. But anyway, from the neighborhood.
What high school did you drop out of, sir?
Yeah. Anyway, he got jobs when he was very young, doing different things, different jobs, and menial jobs, just But he took care of his mom and he took care of his grandma, and he was really good about caring for them. But he would come back, and us married guys. I wasn't too long married, but Mitsu, Arakawa, and the other guys that were around, we were married, and he'd come in and tell all these stories about his nightlife and and all the bizarre things he had done. And Mitsu, after years of hearing this stuff, Bobby the playboy, and he'd come in, and Mitsu said, Bobby, he didn't talk like that. Bobby, I'd kill you if I didn't know you took such good care of your mother and your grandmother. Because he did some really wild
Your
stuff.
mother is the only thing right now keeping me from.
Yeah.
I think Bobby was the MVP for Bruiser because, like you said, when he left in '74, Bobby was the constant on the heel side that carried the heat, and you could bring the heels in and revolve them through his group.
And growing, yeah.
And once that Bruiser didn't have that foil anymore, it was harder. And like I said, it's a series of things, but one key piece can sometimes change the whole equation.
Yeah, one of Bobby's friends provided Bruiser with the idea of what do you call him, Brother Brucey or Cousin Brucey.
That's
Cousin
Brucey was the little sidekick that Bruiser had to combat somebody. I can't remember. Yeah.
Yeah, but he
Wait a minute, wasn't that Bob Saber? Because he was also the wrestling Beetle.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, say you're laughing over here. You're laughing over here. He had the Beetle haircut in the '60s. He's a wrestling Beetle, and he was a photographer also.
Yeah, and the trainer of many fine wrestlers. Anyway, he had Brother Brucey, and Brucey is this nice kid, but he's got ankles about this big around. He's a slight guy, but he on the bottom, and he had kind of a big chest and a large head, but he was not a wrestler at all, not an athlete at all, never had any experience, and he made money with that. The Bruiser incorporated that, and they drew money.
Well, were you there when, my God, you may have been on the other side, I'm not sure, maybe it was the Blackjacks, but when Bruiser and Crusher brought in the midget Little Bruiser?
Oh, yeah.
And they had six mans with Bobby and his two heels, and the midget
Heenan,
would beat Bobby up. That's where I researched all of Bobby's stuff. I've been beat up by midgets, women, and etc. And the angle that Bobby and Miniker did on Indianapolis TV for weeks and weeks and weeks. Once again, go back and watch TBS, folks. Bobby and Miniker are going to fight, and they're going to have the big match, and Miniker tears the phone book in half, so Bobby tries to do it and gets 4 pages. And Miniker breaks the brick, you know, with his karate blow, and Bobby tries it and sells his hand and claims there's a metal bar in it. It was classic stuff, and that's evergreen. Nobody does that stuff now.
It was always exciting, always fun. And a lot of it was done on the spot. Just things came up, and guys would adapt, and something would happen.
Yeah, and Bruiser would get Miniker back in the ring maybe once every few years as his partner against Bobby and maybe the Sheik or Bobby and whoever. And of course, Miniker would get his hands on, you know, Bobby while Sheik's carving everybody up with a pencil. Sheik finally gets his hands on Bobby. It just, the dynamic was changed when that talent went away. Yeah. I think is what it was.
Yeah, it was. They were the golden years for me. They were just great. Beautiful talent. I love showing up for work every day.
To sum up your time in Indianapolis in the WWA, it was your first singles championship run. Tell us, where do you rate your stay in Indiana with the rest of your career and the people you met there and worked with?
I'd say it was one of the best times I personally had, because I hadn't been married very long. We had my daughter was born a French Canadian in Quebec, Canada. And then 3 years later, my son was born a Hoosier in Indiana. So I was home a lot.
Which was important in those days.
Yes, and I got to see the kids develop, and I've always loved my family, so it was, for me, it was really great. And the guys were sensational, you know, just every at that time, the talent in that territory was sensational. Like you say, the homebodies, the guys from Chicago, they were the basis of that old, it starts with a D.
Dumont Network.
Dumont Network. They were the basis of it. You know, Angelo Paffa. Paffa would come around, and some people may have heard of this Savage.
His son, Randy Savage. Yeah, kid. You know, made a mark.
Yeah, and the other one.
Leaping Lanny.
Yeah. And you know,
that's terrible. Always be known as Angelo's other son, but you know, what are you going to do?
Lanny, you're a great guy.
We love you.
Anyway, I made so many friends there, and in the wrestling business and outside the wrestling business, and it was just great years. I got to do a lot of things I would have never done if I hadn't gone.